The rain came down in harsh metallic sheets, the kind that made the whole city feel like a malfunctioning machine. Neon lights flickered on puddle-stained streets, and the winds carried the faint tang of ionized air, leftovers from a war that had ended, technically, but remained alive in people's bones. Evan Walker knew that feeling better than most. A decorated veteran, once hailed as a tactical prodigy, now reduced to wandering old commercial districts after midnight, he walked with a stiffness that spoke more of memory than injury. His left leg, half carbon composite, half stubborn human tissue, ached in the cold. But it wasn't pain that kept him awake, it was the ghosts. On nights like this, the pouring rain made it easier not to think. At least, until he heard it. A sound too soft to belong in a war-chiseled city. A whimper. Not human. Evan stopped beneath a half-collapsed awning. The whimper came again, fragile, uncertain, like a thread of breath fighting for permission to exist. He stepped forward carefully, instincts sharpened by years at the front. There, near the shadows beneath an old mag-tram overpass, something shifted. A silhouette hunched over, trembling, not hostile, not tall enough or built enough to be a threat, and the shape wrapped within its arms, small, infant-sized. Evan exhaled slowly. Not soldiers, not scavengers, someone hiding, someone afraid. He approached with slow, deliberate steps. As the neon glow caught the figure, the truth emerged. An alien woman, soaked through, clutching a tiny, luminescent child to her chest. Her skin had the faint shimmer of the Sarathi species, iridescent scales over soft tissue, a crest of fine biofilaments along her spine, once enemies, later refugees, now political inconveniences. Her eyes, wide, protective, desperate, locked onto Evan. For a long moment, neither moved. Then she lowered her gaze. A sign of surrender or exhaustion. Evan's throat tightened. He recognized that gesture all too well. "Relax," he said quietly. "I'm not here to hurt you." The alien woman's arms tightened around the infant. Rain drummed against the rusting metal above them, but she didn't flinch. She had already endured worse. "What's your name?" Evan asked. Her voice, when it came, was soft and melodic, like water over glass. "Susan?" she whispered. He blinked. "Human name?" She nodded faintly. "Given by volunteer worker at border station. Easier for humans to say." Evan knelt, ignoring the stab of cold water soaking through his trousers. The baby, barely the size of a human toddler, blinked up at him with luminous amber eyes. It emitted a small, warbling chirp. Hungry, weak. "You're feeding her in the rain?" Evan asked, gently. "I have no choice," Susan murmured. "Shelter ward refused us. They said there is no space for my kind, not anymore." Anger flashed in Evan, sharp, familiar. Bureaucracy, politics, fear disguised as law. He looked at her again. Her shoulders were shaking. Her biofilament crest drooped from dehydration. She had wrapped herself around her child so completely that she had taken the brunt of the cold, her own body shielding the infant from the storm. Her devotion was visceral, almost painfully human. "Your baby?" Evan nodded toward the little one. "What's her name?" Susan hesitated. Then, with a whisper soft enough to be swallowed by the rain, "Eris." The infant chirped again, weak but stubborn, alive. Evan felt something inside him shift. He had seen too many children die. He had carried too many. "You can't stay out here," he said, standing. "Both of you will freeze." Susan's crest flickered in alarm. "If I follow you, will you hand us to patrol?" "No." He shook his head immediately. "I'm done handing anyone over." A beat of silence. Then Susan nodded. Evan offered his coat. She hesitated, then took it, carefully wrapping it around the baby first, as if her own life was the afterthought. They walked together through the rain-soaked city. Evan kept his pace slow so Susan's trembling legs could keep up. Every few steps, she glanced down at her child, making quiet clicks meant to soothe Eris. The sound reminded Evan of something he had not heard in years: peace. He guided them to an abandoned storefront he sometimes used when nightmares made sleep an impossible luxury. Inside, it was dry, warm enough, and safe. He activated a low-light lamp. Susan stared, stunned. "You live here?" "Sometimes," he shrugged. "It's quiet." She sank onto a blanket he laid out, still clutching Eris. The infant latched onto a nutrient pod Susan carried and fed eagerly. Evan sat across from them. "You've been running for a while." "Yes," Susan whispered. "Since evacuation routes closed, I worked at a human medical ward before the war. I delivered babies, human babies." She paused, voice trembling. "When the fighting started, I hid. I kept helping humans. Many soldiers thanked me, some threatened me. But I stayed." Her eyes glimmered with a grief Evan recognized instantly. "What changed?" he asked softly. "A month ago, border crackdowns. They started separating families. Anyone without perfect papers, detained. My mate disappeared." Her voice broke. Eris was only days old. Evan's hands curled into fists. The world had found new ways to fracture long after the war ended. "You survived a war caring for our babies," he said quietly. "We can care for yours now." She looked up at him, really looked, and for a moment, her expression softened with something like hope. "Why help us?" she asked. "Because someone should have helped me," Evan replied simply. "Back then, when I came home, when I was hurt, when I didn't know who I was anymore." His voice steadied. "You're not my enemy. You're just a mother in the rain." Silence settled between them, warm, humane. Then the infant chirped, louder this time, stronger. Evan smiled without realizing it. Susan watched him, eyes softening, crest lifting with cautious optimism. "Evan," she said slowly, tasting his name. "If we stay, will we be a burden?" "No," he shook his head. "You'll be company." A faint shimmering tear slid down her iridescent cheek. In that abandoned shop, beneath the soft lamp glow, the outlines of something new formed. Not a treaty, not a political statement, just three beings, broken in different ways, sharing a fragile moment of warmth. Susan leaned her head back against the wall, cradling Eris. The baby's glow brightened with contentment. Evan watched them, the bitterness inside him shifting, melting, dissolving. He hadn't felt purpose in years. But here, in the quiet, it stirred again, small but persistent, like a spark refusing to die. Outside, the rain slowed. Inside, hope, modest, stubborn, alive, began to grow.